Hello all, Game Methuselah. Wanted to do another installment in my favorite monster Mambo. And as I was thinking about which ones to do, it was sort of obvious. Those who have commented upon my shirt collections would sort of understand. I like undeads. Now, they hold a big place in my heart through most of my role-playing, and most of the people who game with me would tend to think they're one of my absolute favorites, because I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them painted. The great thing about undeads is there's such a variety of figures out there. It's also very iconic for role-playing. You can run campaigns all around them easily. They don't require you putting any complex design of why they're there. I mean, if it's a crypt or a sealed-up room or just someplace in the wilderness or even a bad inn, undeads can be there. I've had a lot of fun with them. I won a championship in Games Workshop League with my Vampire Count army, so they're fun. And I also think they're one of the best monsters to start with for any new DM for two reasons. One, they're really easy. You can paint them very quickly, and they run the full gamut from totally wimpy all the way up to campaign ending. I mean, you can have, and I have done so, the master of your campaign, the big boss at the end, can be some high-level undead, and they work great. They have great motivation. They're really tough to beat. All you have to do is look at Game of Thrones to understand that, you know, there are other people out there who realize that undead are a formidable enemy. My first episode of Game of Thrones, I remember when I watched it with the White Walkers came in, and I said, there's the campaign. That's the whole game. Everything else is fluff, because if you don't beat the undeads, you're not going to win the game. The great thing about them, too, if you're brand new, is you can paint very easily with undeads. Skeletons basically require three colors. You can paint them dark brown, you give them an ivory dry brush, you paint the haft of the weapon, and then you get a little metal color to put on your blade or axe head or whatever, and you're done. Everything else beyond that's gilding the lily. You can rust them up, you can give them washes, you can add dried blood. Zombies are good. In fact, 5th edition zombies for Dungeons & Dragons are really interesting to me, because even though they're very weak monsters, they're kind of hard to kill, because when they go to 0, they get a saving throw to see if you actually kill them. And if you don't, they stay at 1 hit point and keep fighting, which makes them very fun and really makes them feel a lot like undead. Sort of that Walking Dead feel where you really just have to beat them absolutely to nothing before you finish them off. I would suggest undeads to anybody who's new. If you're new in D&D, get zombies, get ghouls, get skeletons, of course, especially the Harryhausen ones. Easy to paint, get them done quickly. Again, like I said, you can fit them in everywhere. And then add to there. I mean, ghosts and gas, banshees, specters, wraiths. You know, there's so many things. You get into mummies, and then large constructed creatures. It's incredible what you can do with undeads, and it's really, really easy. And I think you'll enjoy one of my Mambos here. I use them all the time. I cannot think of any ongoing game where I don't, at one point, very quickly throw undeads into the mix, because they fit so good. And they set the theme for your undergrounds, for your locations, a ruined monastery, some ancient threat upon the village or whatever, and undeads always work great.
So here we have the Undead Lair. It's always fun to have an Undead Lair in your dungeons. Again, the party moves across from another level, finds a stairway descending, and as they move in, they see something here in the island. Now, it could be anything, of course. It could be just a statue pouring out water. But it could be a lich. Wait, this party's not that high level. How about a banshee? That would work. But you know what you can do? You don't have to necessarily run the lich at 18th level. Why, it could be a really wussy lich. Instead of an 18th level magic user, it often is very fun to have like a 5th level undead lich. What you do is you scale down everything to the appropriate level and all his saving throws versus any spells he throws. And any special lich abilities he has, he either doesn't have or they're greatly diminished in their power. Now, what you see here is what Matt Colville's high school group used to call nothing good happens in the water. And I totally agree with that. You have this little boss monster. You might even, for baiting's sake, give him a couple undeads just sort of hanging around to basically give them some idea of what to do. Now, you can put an appropriate amount, or they might think this is appropriate. As the battle starts and the fighters figure out, okay, how are they going to get at this bad guy? Maybe it'll just be something for the magic user, or the druid in this case, to take care of, or maybe have the halfling rogue go over there and leap across. Whatever's the case, the water is what's great. Because you see, undead, well, they're dead. Now, I like water, and I have a lot of little zombies that I've all painted in the blue drowned man concept. So what at this point happens as the battle comes and you roll for your various creatures, yeah, your two little skeletons can do whatever they're going to do, but coming out of the water is going to be the zombies who come across and they fight. Now, as I mentioned before, the nice thing about zombies is though they are not particularly tough, if you don't really crush them with tremendous damage, they get a saving throw based upon how much you hit them over their total hit points, and that is the number they need to make to see if they still remain active. And if they succeed, then they can remain active and keep fighting in the next round. So essentially, they linger around at one hit point for quite a long period of time. This can be very frustrating to your party. But again, the great part here, of course, is now you have your zombies pouring out. Now, the nice factor of why I like a really low-level little lich here is the big thing he has is sort of counterspell. The idea is if they're going to throw spells and try to do any kind of mass damage, if they have wizards or whatnot, he can counter them. He doesn't have a whole lot of offensive magic, but there's enough out there on the books that he could do damage and cause interest. And the whole idea is you might have him some ability or something you give him that's a little special. But trust me, Lich is pretty nasty enough. Now, the zombies always come first, and if that's the battle, then you can do it at that. At lowish level, this tends to work really well. The zombies all come aboard. They keep moving around, obviously trying to find a better reach to get to somebody. They're not, unfortunately, as sophisticated as a lot of your intelligent creatures, because, well, they are dead. And they'll usually attack what's in front of them. But what they will continue to do is move on. They'll just keep shifting around as they can to try to get everybody engaged. Normally, the other thing I always treat with undeads is undeads normally recognize clerics. Clerics can turn dead here, so in this case, this cleric might do so, in which case he might either disintegrate or drive more of these undead back into the water. And that lasts for a period of time, and it's great. Clerics are very useful, obviously, against undeads. Things you can do to add spice to the game. If the zombies come up initially in your battle, and that's what they fight, and maybe you haven't even given away initially these concept that there might be skeletons, maybe they just think it's zombies, and that's the way the combat goes. As the zombies get beaten back after a period of time, let's say 5 rounds, maybe as many as 10 rounds, just depending upon you, then the skeletons that are far deeper and far more decomposed in the pond all start to come up, and then they have their toying at battle. The neat thing about that, too, is there's no reason that you use the standard spec on skeletons. You can obviously upgrade them to higher level skeletons, or you can do, as you might note on all these miniatures I'm using here, these guys are all wearing heavy armor. They're carrying large weapons, most of them two-handed. So you could have a situation where they have, like, pole weapons with shields and heavy armor. These are, again, all nasty. And the thing about it is they are sort of impervious to the water. Now, sometimes you might do with a zombie is you go up there and he just, of course, he just wants to eat brains because, well, he's hungry. So he grabs on and attempts to grapple with one of the characters. And then if he succeeds in doing so, you can back him back into the water. Now, this causes all kinds of consternation to creatures that, well, don't have water breathing. So you can make this much more entertaining. The battle can be quite up to you. You can use all kinds of different tactics. Again, don't use any real sophisticated combat tactics with undeads unless maybe you've written something special in that they have that, very much like the Game of Thrones White Walkers, where they're obviously very, very adept and smart and have a very high intellect and ability to do stuff. I mean, they figured out how to resurrect a dragon. The other thing you can always add for fun and frivolity, if you like, is if the party's a little higher or you don't have enough points or maybe you don't have enough undead, there can always be some cleanup crew in the water that is there. So if anybody gets in the water or falls into the water, well, maybe a little ochre jelly or other slime or something, could basically basically attack them. A really nasty thing to do is a gelatinous cube, because the thing about a gelatinous cube is the undeads could actually be inside the gelatinous cube, so that they think this group of 4 skeletons here is just a group of 4 skeletons, when really it's 4 skeletons in a gelatinous cube. So as they go up and the battle ensues, eventually they kill the gelatinous cube, and at that point the 4 skeletons are in there, can leap into battle. Now, they're likely not going to have any gear, because of course the gelatinous cube dissolves most stuff, but any kind of bladed weapon or iron could be used. So again, more things you can do that are tons of fun in your game. But the best thing about it is, in a lair situation like this, is that you provide that combination. The little teeny lich magic user, or just, an undead wizard if you don't want to call it a lich, but whatever minor powers it has, and the ability to cast spells based upon what the party level is, can add a level of inconvenience that really makes this feel substantially more dangerous than it may be. Now, again, I put out a lot of undeads, so you can see different types. But this works really well. And as I said, the beauty of undead is that they don't require a lead up. It's not like they know there's a lair and they've come up here to see the goblins or the gnolls or the ogres or trolls or whatever might be residing here. Undead just can appear out of nowhere. Now, you can use them as big bad guys. I often do, where you have really powerful undeads and it may be a multiple night adventure to fight their way through the Undead Lair, to get down to face whatever the big bad guy at the end is. And that makes it for really fun. But if you're new to the game, and even if you're a veteran to the game, undeads, they're going to be a mainstay staple in so many of your battles. And they're going to be really a lot of fun. And again, like I always say, if you're playing the game, you should be painting figures. And they're without a doubt some of the easiest figures to paint. Strangely enough, it's one of the few I don't actually recommend the pre-paints on, because I find that in the time you spend to paint undeads, you can usually do a substantially better job to do a speed paint on a skeleton. I mean, a whole afternoon and you can paint out 10, 12 skeletons. And they're going to look better than what you're going to get from a pre-painted. So anyway, there you go for one of my favorite monster Mambos, Undead. Now, I'm going to more likely expand on this with Undead's the sequel and Undead's 2.0 and everything else, because I love running Undead. So you're going to see I have mummies, ghast, ghouls, all kinds of different encounters. So down the road, I'll be showing you different things. But this is a great little starter campaign, a little starter room, starter adventure battle. It can even run up into any higher level you want, because believe me, once you include water in this encounter, it gets a lot nastier very, very. So if you like my videos, like me or subscribe to me if you can. Obviously, the more numbers I get, the more people who watch, which gives me an opportunity to eventually get to that magical 10,000 number. If you don't like what I'm doing, let me know, or let me know if there's something else you want to see. I mean, I've got a lot of history background and stuff and can maybe put some different things out for you. So until I have a chance to speak with you again, fight me devils fight, for I hate peace. Game on, everyone.